So here are the Chiefs sitting tied with the Titans, and they lose that tie break. So Tennessee wins. They're the 1 seed. If the Chiefs lose again, they're tied with the Bengals, and the Bengals have the tie break now. So it looks like the Chiefs cost themselves a bye week. And by the way, the AFC has some pretty good wildcard teams. Costing themselves a bye week suddenly means a game against maybe the Colts, maybe the Chargers. That's not a freebie. That's not a sure thing win. A bye is a sure thing win. That's the whole point of the bye week. So this is a very weird spot. I did not expect this result. The Titans, they might be, I was trying to think of, can you think of a worse 1 seed in memory, assuming that they get the win next week? I couldn't come up with one.
Off the top of the dome, the worst 1 seed, I'm gonna have to come back to that.
Yeah, I mean, assuming that the wild card spots go to New England, Indianapolis, and the Chargers, that's my assumption right now. I legitimately think the Titans, as the 1 seed, are the worst playoff team in the AFC.
I'm not gonna go that far. I'm not gonna go that far, and one of the reasons why is because you have to think that they're gonna get Derrick Henry back. AJ Brown has been really tough to stop, and the defense has actually improved as this year has gone along. And so I don't want to say that they're the worst team in the playoffs. Like, I mean, to me, they're better than the Patriots. Yeah, I think they're better than the Colts. I think they're better than the Chargers at this point. I mean, the Chargers or the Raiders. I mean, because obviously those two teams are playing for a playoff position.
So let me ask you this then. We know we talk about this all the time. The best way to get to the Super Bowl is to be the 1 seed. All the Titans have to do is beat the Texans, and they're the 1 seed. Right now, Tennessee is not the favorite or close to it. They're plus 500 to get to the Super Bowl and win the AFC, plus 1,200 to win the Super Bowl. They're 2 games away if they win next week. Are you nibbling at those odds at all?
I am not nibbling at those odds. I'm not. But right. I don't think that they're the worst team in the AFC. I just got to push back on that.
It's fair enough. There's a wide chasm in between taking them to get the Super Bowl and being the worst team there. So we will talk all things playoffs to come. Let's go Rams, Ravens. I'm very worried about the Rams from this game. I'm ready to bet against Matthew Stafford. That's right. Full name, Matthew Stafford. Let's bet against him in the playoffs.
Yeah, I mean, look, you can't trust Matthew Stafford at all. When you look at, this is the second consecutive game where they had to overcome 3 turnovers. And look, he throws the pick 6 to pretty much start the game. He throws another interception in Ravens territory. He fumbles the ball in Ravens territory when they pretty much could have taken the lead to start the second half. I mean, look, Cooper Kupp is amazing. We know that. Odell Beckham has shown that he's not washed, and a lot of it had to do with Baker Mayfield. The defense has been solid. But at some point, you can't overcome these turnovers against solid playoff teams. And look, 7 turnovers the last 3 games. You're just not going to overcome that. And I just, to me, and I got a lot of pushback from about this. I brought this to my group chat. And I also brought this to Twitter. And I'm of the belief that the Rams were actually better under Jared Goff than they are under Matthew Stafford. And hear me out. I know it's probably a crazy take. We know Matthew Stafford's the better quarterback. But from when I'm watching these games, it feels like Sean McVay was aware of the limitations of Jared Goff, and he never really took the training wheels off. Whereas with Matthew Stafford, because he's presumed to be a better quarterback, which he is, there's no training wheels on this guy. So he's allowed to be as reckless as possible. And you could look at some of these Rams games this week. I know they pulled off the win, but you look at last week, or you look at the game against the Titans, the game against the 49ers. He's almost single-handedly almost losing these games for this team. And I don't know if Jared Goff was ever really put in a position during his time with the Rams to just go out there and lose these games for them. And you said it yourself. You're betting against Matthew Stafford.
Yeah. So here's my response to that. So I would say that the floor is lower with Matthew Stafford because it can really fall out because they let it. The floor wasn't as low with Goff because they didn't allow it. They had so much built in to protect him. But the big difference and why they made the deal is because the ceiling is unquestionably higher. And I'm not saying these are the same caliber quarterbacks, but Matt Stafford for 4 games could have that Nick Foles run in him where he just is running hot. Like we know when he's good, he's really good. When the the arm talent is there, the deep ball is there, they got the talent. The Rams have the ball down late and they're driving. And I thought at the end of the game, that final minute or two is all Rams stars and scrubs. You get Cooper Kupp gets the long catch. I'm counting him as one of the stars now. He certainly is. Then 4th down, game's on the line. Stafford throws to Odell Beckham. Great catch. Couple of plays later, Stafford throws to OBJ again for the touchdown. Ravens get the ball back, and it's 3rd down. What's the big play? Von Miller, the guy they traded for, comes through, gets the sack. The clock is running. It's the last play. The Ravens throw it again. Aaron Donald from defensive tackle comes back to get the big hit and the tackle to end the game. So that's it. That's Stafford, Kupp, Beckham, Von Miller, Aaron Donald. Everyone but Jalen Ramsey. Like, that's it. That's the whole Rams. You can't even name 5 more Rams. That's the entire roster. That's the team. And if you're the Rams, you look at that and you're like, that's it. That's the roster we built. That's our Super Bowl roster. But I'm going to follow that up by saying this. It doesn't get any better than that for the Rams. And I think right now, there's a better chance that the Rams do not win again this season than that they get to the Super Bowl.
Wow. So you
I think that's it. I think they got their win. I think they could lose to the Niners next week. The Niners are a good team. The Niners are fighting for the playoffs and need a win. And I'm not sure that the Rams are that dangerous in the playoffs. They could be. They're live. Matt Stafford makes them more live than Jared Goff would. They could get there, but Stafford, I think, has 4 pick sixes on the season. He's that guy that you're going to, whoever bets on Matt Stafford, you're going to be watching that playoff game. And when, not if, when that back-breaking interception comes, you're going to be like, why did I put my money on this? We all knew this was coming.
Yeah, I've been saying it for years. To me, he's our generation's version of Jeff George. He has a rocket arm, but he just lacks that intangible to really be able to put it together. And I mean, it's pretty clear if Lamar Jackson's out there today, the Ravens probably win that game. And like he single-handedly kind of kept the Ravens in this game with his turnovers. And it's just, it's going to be very frustrating. And they're not a team I'm looking to back, to be honest.
Yeah, the Rams now got the big win against the Vikings last week. They got the Ravens win today. They should have lost both those games. Stafford was terrible in both of those games and tried badly to give the game away. So I'm very out on the Rams. I'm ready to fade them in the playoffs. I would feel better about the Colts winning on the road in the playoffs, and I feel better about the Rams right now. This game, though,
I 100% agree.
This was not that. This doesn't scare me off of that. This just makes me think that this is a team that let COVID derail their season because they gave away 2 games now that they completely gave away because you didn't practice all week. You got to get ready for the game, and they got guys like quarantining all week long, and they got them back, but it wasn't enough. This looked like a team, and Carson Wentz today looked like a guy who was just out of sync and hadn't practiced.
Oh yeah, I mean I agree with that. I mean, when you look at the last 13 games, they've won 9 of their last 13 games. They started the season 0-3, and then you look at the games that they lost. They probably should have beat the Ravens. That's a game that they should have won. You look at the game against the Titans. That's a game that they should have won. I mean, the second game against the Titans at home, they should have won that game. The game against the Buccaneers, that's another game that they should have won. And then you look at this game. Obviously, they didn't practice. So to me, this is a team, like you said, that can beat anybody on any given Sunday. But they've just had some bad luck as far as finishing games, and then they've had some bad luck with the pandemic. So, I think if this team gets into the playoffs, this is a team that you might want to take a flyer on in terms of making the Super Bowl because I think they're scary.
Yeah, I agree. So we don't want to read too much into this one. The other thing too is this actually could end up sort of helping the Colts. They probably fall from the 5 seed to likely the 6 seed at this point, assuming that things go as expected next week. And that probably means instead of going to Buffalo, who looks like the 4 seed if results go as expected, you play Cincinnati. And I don't know about you, but as good as Cincinnati looked today, I would way rather play Cincinnati in a playoff game than play Buffalo, who's been there, who has that great defense. And the Colts beat up on Buffalo earlier this year. Colts are not going to be afraid of either one of those matchups. At this point, They just got to stay out of the 7 seed. You don't want any part of the Chiefs. If losing today knocked you into a matchup where you got to play the Chiefs now instead, then today cost you your season probably. Hopefully it's not that. And instead, today's loss to me might have bought me a little extra value on the Colts that might not have been there before today. Because today was not about anything bad about the Colts. Today was about a weird, wonky week and just the line being off.
Oh, yeah, without a doubt.
All right, let's talk about your team in the afternoon game, the Dallas Cowboys. I have to say, I'm worried about the Cowboys offense.
You know, the funny thing is, look, everybody spoke about Cliff Kingsbury's record and the start of the season and his struggles at the end of the season. But I think one of the things that I probably didn't account for is that Mike McCarthy was on the other end of the field. And look, this Cowboys offense, outside of their games against Washington, they really just have not played well at all. And you got Dak Prescott, 24-38, 226 yards, 3 touchdowns. And, you know, a lot of that came at the end, but you got a fumble. Look, the Cardinals, they really have struggled to stop the run, but they shut down this Cowboys rushing offense. They had 45 rushing yards on 2.6 yards per attempt. Like, that's not going to get it done against. It's like you got to be able to run the ball. That's what the Cowboys do. Ezekiel Elliott had 9 carries, 16 yards. Tony Pollard had 3 carries, 9 yards. So I think that was the most surprising thing. You know, there was a lot of sharp money on the Arizona Cardinals because this look ahead line was Cowboys -2.5. It's got all the way up to 6.5. But I was looking at this Cardinals team thinking that they were completely cooked. And it just turns out that they had a little slump.
Yeah, I'm a little bit frustrated that I didn't play more. This was just a gut feeling game. We talked about this one in our Friday preview. This just felt like a buy low, sell high spot. And I feel like that's just kind of what we saw. I don't really know that I took too much away from this game. I was not high on the Cardinals coming in. I don't feel like I'm that much higher on the Cardinals coming out of it. Like, I don't feel like, oh, good, the Cardinals are back. They got the big road win. The Cardinals, I think, are 6-0 on the road this season as underdogs outright. So we know they can go win on the road. They might have to do it in the playoffs. So they'll be dangerous, but not like super dangerous. Like, I didn't see anything about the Cardinals today that really made me stop and catch my attention that much. Cardinals were good. They had 399 yards to 301 yards. Again, as always, they were ridiculously efficient on late downs on both sides of the ball. They continue to do that all season. We continue to think it's not going to be able to keep up, and it does somehow. But Dak, not good enough. 3 touchdowns. You'd think that that's a good game, but 5.9 yards per attempt, not getting down the field. 3 catches for Cooper, 3 catches for Lamb. Gallup, I think, tore his ACL now, so he's done. Dak fumbled 3 times, so he lost the one. Incredible play, by the way, by Isaiah Simmons, coming all the way around and getting back and punching the ball out. That was kind of the turning play. I actually thought Dallas might still come back and get the win. You know, they entered 22-7 in the fourth quarter, came all the way back and had a chance. But then the defense that's been so good can't get off the field. 4:42, you get the ball back and you never get the ball back again. So yeah, you talked about Mike McCarthy. He had that blown timeout early in the second half. And then I thought Chase Edmonds might have fumbled that ball toward the end, right before the 2-minute warning, and then have a timeout left. So they can't challenge it, and they're unable to challenge. They're unable to stop the clock. So it felt like another one where McCarthy mismanaged a little bit. But I thought the Cowboys were a bit overvalued on the line because I thought the offense wasn't good enough. That's what I saw in this game. I don't think less of the Cowboys after the game, but I already was worried about them going in, and this is kind of what I was worried about.
You know, the one thing I will say is that I was a little impressed with Arizona in the sense that, look, the Cowboys have a dominant pass rush, but Kyler can neutralize a really great pass rush, and I think we saw that in this game. And that was the difference for me, because anytime you had Randy Gregory or you had Micah Parsons getting to Kyler Murray, he's scrambling and he's getting out and he's extending drives. And I think that's what won them this game. But I mean, the defense played well. Look, I mean, they held the Cowboys rushing attack to nothing. And I think that's big. If the Cowboys can't run the ball, then that's going to hurt the rest of their offense. But
yeah,
I mean, look, I thought the Cowboys offense had turned it around, but it just turns out that they just have the Washington football team's number, and Washington was just completely depleted with all these COVID absences. So the Cowboys going forward is just, if they can't get this offense going, then I mean, I think they're probably a first or second round exit, even with the defense playing as well as they've been playing.
The run game for sure is my biggest worry for this game. And it's not new. That's not a new thing. But this game in particular, the Cardinals had been awful defending the run since J.J. Watt went out. So if you're ever going to run the ball, this is the game to run the ball. You have to be able to run the ball. I think the Cardinals were 29th against the run in EPA per play over the last 6 weeks. And so if the Cowboys still can't run the ball, even in that spot, that's a real worry to me. I will say this, though. Like with the Colts, number one, a loss here might allow some value. The Cowboys, we know the ceiling is there. But the other thing that I do like for Dallas is looking at the different scenarios. If I'm Dallas, I'm taking next week as a bye week. I think Dallas is basically locked into the 4 seed. In order for them to move above the 4 at this point, they need to win against Philly, who is also locked in the playoffs, but fighting for position. But they also need a Tampa loss or a Rams loss. I think maybe a Cardinals loss. There are a few scenarios, but in all likelihood, the Cowboys are probably the 4 seed. And I'm not really sure it matters that much to bump up to the 3. I'm not sure that really changes things too much for them. I think they should take the week off, get Dak healthy. He seems like he is still could use a little more time, and just kind of get right. Take a mental break on a long season. I think that could end up being a blessing in disguise, with them not really having to fight for the 1 seed next week like we thought they might need to, and kind of get a little bye week. Might get this matchup again. That's what it looks like right now is Cowboys Cardinals. I can't say that I would feel terrible about it if I'm a Cowboys fan. Like, there's nothing about this matchup that makes me think we can't beat this team. It just was an off day. I'd take the off week and try again.
I'm not really a big fan of taking off week 17 or week 18. I think it's beneficial for some of these teams to go out there and build up a lather and, play a couple series. And because, obviously so much of football is rhythm. So much of it is just actually being prepared and playing week in and week out. And we know Dak hasn't looked good since he came back from his injury. So I still think that there are some reps that they need to get in, especially when you lose Michael Gallup. The backup came in and actually scored a touchdown. So I want to see the Cowboys at least go out there and play a couple series at minimum. And I'm saying that as a fan, but I'm saying that, for all teams who are in this position to where they're not really playing for anything, because we've seen teams come out there, take that week off, and then the next week they look like they haven't played football in a month. So
yeah, that's fair.